Hello readers, welcome back to PJL Books and welcome to today's showcase. Okay, look, I'm gonna jump straight in and say that today's showcase is Twilight by Stephenie Meyer. Now, before anyone jumps to any conclusions, let me just say this. I know that there's nothing left to say about Twilight that hasn't been said before. Those of you who despise Twilight have probably already read reams of articles about its problems, and those of you who adore Twilight are probably sick and tired of hearing these problems again and again. The trouble is, I find that most of the arguments about Twilight gravitate around the messages it seems to put across, how it effectively seems to set back women and men's attitude towards women about 100 years in the past. For example, Bella's utter reliance on Edward to the point where she ceases to function as a human being when he's not there. Now, although I do indeed have my own personal issues with this aspect of Twilight, for this showcase I'd like to take a different tack. Let's just take the story at face value, of a girl falling in love with a vampire and nothing more. Let's focus purely on Twilight's story structure and characterization. The result? Yeah, well, it's still sorely lacking. The thing is, when I first started reading Twilight, for the first few opening chapters, I was pleasantly surprised. The writing style is simple yet functional, the pacing feels smooth, and the introduction of Fawkes is decent. And then Edward walks in. Now, at first, they hate each other. Edward seems physically repulsed by Bella, and Bella understandably takes this reaction to heart and is hateful back. At this point I thought, great! So this is what the rest of this fairly weighty novel is going to be about, right? About how these two eventually put aside their differences, forge a friendship, and ultimately a well-earned romance. Well, no. Very, very early on in the book, no less than about a quarter of the way into the novel, Edward and Bella have suddenly put aside their differences and declared their undying love for one another. Wait, what? Where did that come from? This sudden U-turn and declaration of love kills what promise Twilight had as a story on both major fronts, characterization and plot. From a characterization point of view, it feels completely unearned. Now, I have no problem with romance on the page. In fact, it can be the great motivator for your characters. But for it to mean anything, it needs to drive the characters, to either fight to earn the hand of the one they love, or to protect the love they have built. Bella and Edward's sudden romance feels hollow because there has been none of that fight, no sacrifice to earn it. So it feels fake and lacks weight, two things that a believable romance need to have. Beyond that, neither Bella nor Edward seem to have any other motivation, aspiration, or drive in this story. So when this one and only character building potential of characters building from loathing to loving is resolved far too easily and far too quickly, and it kills their characters on the page. Which leads me on to the second problem this causes: plot. Because up until that point of declaration, there was nothing else to care about. No other antagonistic force that keeps the reader turning the page. I mentioned early on in my Off the Shelf series that in order to maintain a reader's interest and to keep the plot ticking over, there needs to be at least one question unanswered, one thing that will keep the reader worried and keep them moving ahead through the story to find that answer, that resolution. And up until that point, there was no other plot, no other issues that needed to be resolved or tackled. No villain, no school bully, no ticking time bomb, no looming threat of any kind. So when the only plot development that the reader has to cling to, Bella and Edward's developing relationship, when it's basically resolved, when there is still 300 pages out of a 400-page book to go, you have to wonder what could possibly fill the next 3/4 of the book. The answer is, unsurprisingly, nothing. This is where the cynic in me would say that Meyer never really had an interest in the plot, really. That she was just itching to get all of that icky character building or plot development out of the way and just get on with indulging in a vacuous and tension-free romance. Only in the last handful of chapters does a threat appear, and again, it feels vacuous and meaningless because it literally comes out of nowhere. And I'm sorry, I disagree completely with anyone who would say, "Oh, but Edward is fighting his inner demons. He could hurt or bite Bella at any moment." Nope, sorry, this is clear from the get-go that this is supposed to be a romance. Be honest with yourself. Did you ever really, truly feel that Bella was in danger from Edward at any point? Meyer has already made it clear that she is not only disinterested in building tension, but she actively avoids it. I mean, she has a character whose special skill it is to dispel tension among people. Bella's in no danger. And this is why I feel that the movie adaptation of Twilight, while still sorely lacking as a result of the weak source material, actually fares better than the novel because it addresses some of these points. Number one, the threat that appears so suddenly at the end of the book is threaded throughout the movie, albeit in a ham-fisted, meanwhile cutaway style. Number two, Bella actually has an emotional reaction to finding out Edward is a vampire, whereas in the book, she literally shrugs off the fact, again, shunning any potential for narrative tension. And movie version Edward actually has an edge of self-loathing to himself, declaring himself a monster. Oh, it feels tacked on as hell, but at least it's something. I don't despise Twilight. Despise is such an intense feeling, and I struggle to feel any kind of strong feeling with a novel that is just so empty and devoid of any feeling itself. When I finish a book, even ones I hate, at least it occupies my mind for a little while longer. But with Twilight, nothing stuck. Nothing mattered. Just nothing. And that's it for today's showcase. Thank you very much for listening, readers. The link for where you can purchase this book and view other reviews is in the description below, along with links to my website and blogs. Please check them out if you can, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.